Hello and welcome to another episode of Solo Inter podcast where we talk everything Inter. With me, as per usual, is Parmeshwar and Manish. And finally, a nice win. I mean, it was a much needed clean sheet against Fiorentina. I mean, I was a bit skeptical when before the match. I thought we might drop points, but it was a clinical display. So, Manish, coming to you first, like, how do you think the match was? I mean, is Hakimi a better signing than Lukaku, looking at his performance again last week?
Yes, hi everybody, and thank you, Gautam, for the question. Yes, it was a good match. I think from start to finish, we had good control over the match. Unlike the previous rounds, I think this game we had complete control. So Fiorentina had missed a couple of I think three main of the players. Also, the good news to us was Ribery missing the match. That was like music to our ears. Yeah. So other than Milinkovic was out, Castrovilli was out, and Ribery. So, like I said during the preview, there was no other reason not to drop points here. We had to win it, and Fiorentina was completely like kind of out of form, like just two wins in the last 10 games. So, but I'm happy with the formation, and Conti was went quite offensive. He didn't rest because thinking that Fiorentina is an easier opposition. There are times where coaches think, okay, then let's rest a star man. I'm glad he started with Hakimi and Lukaku straight away. And you could see them, they initially seemed a bit rusty. Lukaku and Hakimi both are a bit rusty in the early stages. But I always like when Conti starts one side, Hakimi left side, Perisic. It's two offensive wingers. That it's I always enjoy those type of matches. Yeah, it means we're taking the game seriously. We're going on the offense. So other than that, it was a very good match, and what a goal by Barella! Amazing goal! What a beauty! It was like a peach of a goal. Uh, this guy cannot score easy goals. I think he had one easy opportunity early in the first half where he just shot straight to Dragowski, but this one was amazing curler. It was completely like a Beckham shot, prime Beckham curling in those free kicks. It seemed that way. So saying that Barella is, I think, hands down the best midfielder in Serie A we have. It's one of the best players we have. And I also want to mention how good is Dragowski. This guy, whenever he plays against us, he's really good. I think we should keep him in contention for a potential replacement for Handanovic. This guy's really good, Dragowski. He did a couple of crucial stops. And then, yes, the second goal, Sanchez and Hakimi combining. How many times you've seen this season? I think the umpteenth time where Sanchez gives a pass to Hakimi, releases Hakimi, and Hakimi crossed it to Perisic. So yes, I think Alexis Sanchez is the only player which knows how to unlock the potential of Hakimi. So both of them combining was it's really good. And yes, it was three good points. And also to say, like Handanovic did some crucial stops on Bonaventura's long range shots. The credit is due. I think when Handanovic plays well, we obviously that to credit him. But obviously, when he has more of bad games than good games, so that's another topic for the day. But generally, good result, Gotham. And yes, Hakimi, I think contribution is much more than what Lukaku had in this game.
Yeah, Parmeshwar, coming to you, like Manish said, Dragowski was really good, and considering the errors we did against Juventus, do you think like the clean sheet was much more important than the two goals up front because we screwed up the last game and conceded two goals, and now the clean sheet, I think it boosts confidence of the defense and Handanovic as well. Next, like compared to the UA game previously, and UA again the next match. So, how do you think the performance rated to you?
Yeah, so first things first, to answer your question, as in what was more important, I think it's always important to find a balance between the two because since Conte was appointed last season, he said it like n number of times that we always need to find the right balance, right, before for scoring a lot of goals and at the same time maintaining a clean sheet. And I think this season it's much more evident that we have, at least gotten closer to keeping that balance because it's the same thing. We create a lot of chances, but when at the same time when we have had Skriniar, Devra, and Bastoni defending, we have kept clean sheets as well. So that is one thing. And coming to the overall performance, I think Gautam, it was a pretty straightforward win. Like as Manish said, missing Ribery did affect Fiorentina, I feel. But at the same time, I would give credit to Devra who kept Vlahovic at bay. Like he did a really good job. Like Vlahovic wasn't evident at all. He didn't seem like a player who's scored like 7 goals in 7 consecutive games. So he did a fantastic job. I think his performance was gone unnoticed to an extent by many fans, because of course there is always Nicolo Barella to talk about. I mean, what a goal! And he's celebrating his birthday today as well. And just to add a few stats, he's already had a total of 8 goal contributions this season, which is 3 goals and 5 assists. That's his personal best, and already an improvement over last season. And his critics used to always say that the guy doesn't score enough or doesn't assist enough, but here he is. And it was good to see in this post-match conference that he himself admitted this, that I need to score more, because as Manish said, he had that chance, that tap in against Dragowski. As credit to Dragowski for saving that, but I mean, he should have scored that as well. I mean, that was something he could have just placed it instead of going for power. So he knows he needs to improve on that. And Stellini said that too. Stellini said that he hoped, somebody asked Stellini, one of the reporters asked Stellini that do you hope to see Conte in Barella, because Conte himself was like a workhorse as a midfielder and not the best qualitatively, whereas Barella is. But yeah, so he said he hopes for the same, and he did acknowledge that Barella needs to score more. But what can you say about him? I mean, another match of man of the match performance, great overall. And I think there were a few sloppy moments in the match, especially surprisingly after we scored the goal. We looked a bit shaky. It had to be Lukaku making all the clearances from all the corners, and he blocked that Bonaventura shot. Otherwise, that was a goal for them. And to Manish's point, credit to Handanovic for that double save, because the initial shot was of Bonaventura, who's good at long ranges, and the second shot of the first parry was by Biragi, who's also good at long ranges, right? We know that. So that was good by Handanovic, good reaction, good reflexes. Just want to point out Perisic. He did struggle initially. Like in the first half, he was looking a bit shaky. He was making silly tackles and giving the ball away. But second half, he showed good improvement, in my opinion. He bounced back very well. He looked a bit more composed in the defensive side of things. And the run he made to score the goal, I think he showed good understanding to move into the box, because he could have very well, gone way too sooner and just kept standing there, and he could have been marked out of it, but he made a timely run. So credit to him. And overall, I think same for Brozovic, who struggled initially but grew into the match. And Hakimi, just to cap it off, Hakimi also I think has an impressive stat where he's got like 6 goals and 4 assists in 21 Serie A appearances, and that's just impressive. I think that's the most by any defender, if you consider Hakimi as a defender in the top 5 leagues. And also this one was a first double over Fiorentina since the 13-14 season under Mazzari. So that says a lot, I think, because the Artemio Franchi is a difficult place to go. Of course, there are no fans, but yeah, Gotham, just to cap it off, overall very impressive. Didn't have to, I think, spend too much of our energy on it. If I just had to nitpick, one disappointment I had was that I think Stellini should have made better substitutions. Like in my opinion, Gagliardini coming in was important. Like he did a pretty good job after coming in, but I think Eriksen should have got a few minutes here. And Bastoni looked dead tired. After full time, he was on the ground, flat, exhausted, and he had to endure one very bad tackle too. So I think he should have been rested for Kolarov way before. I think we would have been fine. I think that was my only complaint. But yeah, pretty much apart from that, pretty routine win, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and as Manish had pointed out earlier, Sanchez looks like he's the only guy who can link up with Hakimi really well. And how much ever we criticize Sanchez, like doesn't have the scoring touch right now. He only assists, and that's all he does right now. But do you think like you need a player like Sanchez, like regardless of whether he scores goal or not? He's the guy who is unlocking Hakimi's potential. He's the one who is like finds Hakimi all the time. So do you think Sanchez gets a bit more criticism than required because he's obviously a team player and he is affecting the results?
Yeah. So Gotham, I do agree that he gets a bit much more criticism than he deserves, because the thing is with Sanchez, if you notice his past record, even before Inter at United, he had his fair share of issues, injuries, and he was not much. Over the seasons, he's regressed as a goal scorer. But if you see the threat he offers in terms of us having a plan B, making those dribbles into the box, and I know he overdoes it most of the times. Like it's like I remember watching Uncle Sharma's video. He's like a spinning top who just moves randomly at times. Once he gets pressed, but that's not the thing. The thing is he makes those risk risky runs which others don't, I feel. And I would point out one stat which I had read the other day, is that we are one of the lowest dribbling teams in Serie A, right below with Parma. That is not a good stat. Like it's like very low. If I had the graphic, I would share it, but it was really, really low. We are not even in the top 10. So not even in top 15, if I'm not wrong. So that's a really bad stat. And Sanchez is one of the few players who offers that. Like I checked on who scored 2. He's the highest dribbler. After, I think that is Brozovic, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, so you need Sanchez for a plan B. Had we done the Dzeko Alexis swap, that just eliminates our plan B altogether. And it's like the same thing, always looking for Dzeko if not Lukaku was playing. So I'm glad that deal never happened. Although of course we know Dzeko can be a prolific scorer, but Sanchez does offer a plan B. And you could see, after Conte criticized him post the Juve match, you could sorry, the Benevento match as well. You could see that uh, Sanchez was looking to make a difference against Fiorentina. Like, the assist he got was a result of a pretty simple pass. He didn't overdo anything. He looked for Barella, he passed it. And the second goal which we scored, as Manish said, it is him who always finds Hakimi's runs. That ball was sublime, and Igor could not keep up with Hakimi. And to Manish's point, because Alexis knows how to look for Hakimi, knows how Hakimi runs when he runs. Others use him as a reference point to improve. Now, I would take Brozovic as an example. I don't know if you guys remember Hakimi's goal against Bologna at home, the 3-1 win. Brozovic's lobbed ball assist. Again, like it's like people are using Sanchez as a reference point to learn, as to how they need to look for Hakimi. So I still maintain that he's important, but to Conte's point, he definitely needs to do something about his goal scoring ratio. He won't be available against Juventus, but the first leg he could have had a goal easily. We could have been 2-2 at this point. So he needs to improve that. It's about confidence, in my opinion, and he just needs to do the basics right, because I feel somewhere in his head he overthinks a lot, and it's evident in his movement, the way he at times just dribbles randomly and everything. But overall, I still maintain that he's still an important player for us. Yeah.
Yeah, and Manish, coming to you, like, do you think Ericsson should have been rested if he was rested? With Ericsson, you never know no, whether he was rested or dropped or whatever, but he's on a completely golden run right now. He has got his form back, he's got his confidence back. Do you think resting him was a mistake, considering that we are playing Juventus next, and I'm guessing he's going to start there?
See, everyone wanted to see Ericsson. I think this was a perfect game for Ericsson to start Fiorentina game with under par Fiorentina, under strength Fiorentina. Sorry to say that. I think this was the best game for Ericsson to start. But surprisingly, Brozovic started. I think this brings back to my point when we had the preview. I had mentioned that Brozovic had a week off and he'd seemed a bit rusty against Juventus. I think possibly that's the only reason I can think of for Conte to play Brozovic, is that so that the rustiness goes away and is much more match fit. So that's the only reason why I can think why Brozovic started the game. But saying that Ericsson was much needed in the second half, but hats off to Gagliardini. He had a very impressive performance. He almost scored with a good header. He had much of the physical control. So saying this Juventus game, that comes a bit tricky. Do we use Ericsson and Brozovic, or Gagliardini after his impressive showing starts? So my bet could be Conte to stick with Barella, Brozovic, and Gagliardini in the three-man midfield against Juventus. But yes, this was a game which I thought Ericsson should have started instead of Brozovic.
Yeah, and UA next, and we need a 2-goal difference at the Juventus Stadium. Like, do you think it's almost mission impossible, or we are good enough to beat Juventus by a 2-goal margin?
I think we are quite good enough to beat Juventus. If you check over the years, this is the weakest Juventus we can face. And if you check the match last night, Juventus versus Roma, I thought Roma outplayed them. Apart from the goals which Juventus scored, one was a magical goal from Ronaldo, and second was their own goal. But if you check the possession, the control, the dominance, it seems Roma had dominated much of the game. Just the result was not in their side. So I'm sure Inter and Conte must have watched that game last night and taken a few points, because it's not like the previous Juventus where they used to dominate and kill off teams. This Juventus seemed quite vulnerable, and Roma, to their credits, played really good football. So I'm thinking from that. Plus, we had the two matches over Juventus. We had a lot of chances. We created. It's not like I said before, like we were not outplayed. We had taken the game to Juventus. So the idea for this match is to start strong with no fans. So I'm sure that the home and away, that playing away, that fear should go out. Now we're playing Juventus on neutral grounds. The Inter fans must think that. I mean, the Inter players must think that we're playing Juventus on neutral ground and go for it from the first minute. Because these type of matches, you don't have regrets. So I wish we had like 5 more minutes of stoppages to score that last goal. No, we should take it from the first minute. that's my only wish or complaint to Conte is because Conte, he takes over the second half. That's where we get up and get more aggressive. I hope against Juventus, the team is motivated enough to go from the first minute. And the key for this match is not to make any individual errors. That this was the only plan. Like I think Conte should saying that because the first leg we had played really well apart from those two individual errors. So the same strategy must go on. Handanovic, Bastoni, all should play with a cool head and go for it. I think this Juventus is easily susceptible to goals. They rested the back line. I think De Ligt and Demiral, they rested against Roma so that they are in full strength against us. But saying that, I think this Juventus is we can go for the win. It's not an impossible task. Yes, it is difficult, but definitely not impossible, Gautam.
Yeah, Parmeshwar, coming to you. Now, this leg we have to deal with suspensions. And there's a news today that Dybala might be back for Juventus. Do you think that will somehow affect our morale and Juventus morale? Like Manish was saying, this is the easiest Juventus you can face. Over like past few years, they were in a different league altogether. And now we have closed the gap. I might even say that we technically on paper are better than them. If you take out Ronaldo from the equation, I mean, we have a way better squad than them. Do you think that would come into play, like suspensions coming into play, Dybala coming into play, and Ronaldo is always a match winner. He changes the game in an instant. Like, how do you think we should go ahead with the match?
Yeah, so just before, I mean, looking at how we should approach it, I just have a different take on how Juventus played altogether. First of all, as you said, Dybala, he's training individually, so he might actually be on the bench at least against Inter, and that is always a boost because Dybala, if you see how he played against Milan, he played really well, and he was basically probably the man of the match who led to their victory over Milan. So he could be back. That is one. I think Ramsey is still supposed to be injured, and Bonucci did get injured yesterday during the match, so he's probably going to be the only absentee with Ramsey. But the thing with Juventus is, Gautam, when I watched them yesterday, it was the fact that also Pirlo said that they let Roma attack them. They need because the fact that they started Bonucci and Chiellini together. Chiellini and Bonucci, when they played against us in the league match, they played a pretty high line, and that's where Lukaku, pretty much exposed them, exposed Chiellini to be specific. But yesterday they played a much deeper line, and that's where Chiellini and Bonucci's strengths at present lie because they're not, as fast anymore like they were in their prime. So, and although Roma had a lot of chances, I don't deny that they had a clear goal scoring chances which they messed up. But Juventus dealt with them pretty well. Like whenever they retained the ball, it was on the counter mainly when they attacked, and their transitions were so quick. From I remember the second goal Roma conceded, it was because Roma left a lot of space between their defense and midfield, and since we have to go out and play, we really need a 2-0 win. Juventus can really exploit us at that. I agree that this isn't the best Juventus in years, but what I feel is that they, as the months have passed by, they have grown to understand the kind of football they want to play. Like I was watching Pirlo's press conference yesterday. He did say that I want to maintain a balance sort of between the way Allegri's Juventus played and that Sarri's Juve played, because Sarri always, we all know what kind of football Sarri wants, like a possession-based, fast-paced, possession-based game. But he also wanted to maintain the defensive solidity of Allegri, which is what he showed yesterday, in my opinion, at least. So it's not going to be easy. I think this is how they're going to be setting up against us. Like they're not going to be too urgent when they have the ball. They'll have the ball. They'll just pass it around like they did. But when we'll be forced to play a high line most probability. And what worries me about Juventus is how quickly and how quick and how efficient their transitions are from Morata. The link up play between Morata, Kulusevski and Cuadrado, because Cuadrado's pass yesterday is what led to Juventus's second goal, which was an own goal by Ibanez. So that is what worries me about Juventus, that if they have Dybala on the bench, that's an added plus point. Like there's no two ways about it. And I was just checking a few stats about players like Bentancur and Arthur, who had struggled at the early phases of this season. Rabiot, not Bentancur, but Rabiot yesterday made 53 passes. All of them were accurate, and most of them were progressive. So these players are growing in confidence. Arthur has been having 2-3 good games in a row. Then you always have Cuadrado, their best, probably one of easily their top 3 players of the season. Ronaldo's Ronaldo. What do you say? You give him a bit of space, he'll score out of nowhere, which he did yesterday. So the fact that Dybala is back is a bit worrying, and the fact that Chiellini did well yesterday, I would say, is a bit of concern because in most probability, as Manish said, De Ligt and Demiral are the ones who are going to start against Inter. So, and De Ligt is, he likes to make things hard for us. So overall, it's not going to be an easy game. That midfield is improving. Pirlo is learning from his mistakes, as I said previously. But with that being said, we aren't naive either. Conte, I'm pretty sure, as Manish said, he watched Juve Roma yesterday. He's watched the loss over and over again, and he knows what to do. Coming to how we need to set up, first looking at the lineup, I mean, Handanovic and the backline is no doubt. Like, you need to play Bastoni, De Vrij, Skriniar. But my only worry is, at times Bastoni, once I've noticed that, like, if in the previous game he gets way too exhausted, his performances in the next game, like at least one game, tend to take a dip, or at least he struggles to cope with the intensity. And I hope that doesn't happen against Juventus. Hakimi, I mean, obviously has to start. And coming to the main point, midfield, because we won't be having Vidal at all. I think instead of Gagliardini, it has to be Christian Eriksen, because first things first, he didn't play at all, and I think he's been rested for that. To your point, Gautam, I think he's been rested for that reason.
But
And I
wasn't
think
isn't Hakimi suspended too? I thought Hakimi can't play
no,
at the
no, no.
second.
Hakimi, and Lukaku have completed the suspension. It was only like the first leg. So
Okay.
Hakimi is going to be back. So the only people missing are Vidal and Alexis for tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, I think it has to be Eriksen, because with Gagliardini, you don't get that ball progression. Off the ball, he's good at doing the dirty work. Against Fiorentina also, he won the aerial duels. He almost scored, but Dragowski saved again. But on the ball, he's just too nervous to make that forward pass. If he's getting pressed, he'll make some error, and it'll lead to a goal. So I don't think it has to be Gagliardini. I know we faced issues with the midfield of Barella, Brozovic, Eriksen in the earlier part of the season, but I think Eriksen is growing in confidence. So I think this is where it needs to happen. Like, it has to be Eriksen, Barella, and Brozovic. And left wing back, again, a dilemma. Do we start Perisic? Because post match, he of course seemed to be injured, but he said that it was only a cramp and he's fine. So he's going to be ready to go. But do we start Perisic or Ashley Young? I personally will stick to Perisic, because yes, he did struggle a bit against Fiorentina, but he shows the tendency to grow into the match like every time he struggles. So that's what I like, which I don't think Ashley Young does. Like Perisic is a bit more level-headed in my opinion, and going forward he's also a bit more of a threat. So I would start Perisic, and up front there is no doubt Lukaku, Lautaro, and I think, as Manish said, Conte tends to sit back a lot, and we are better as a counter-attacking team, even though we create a lot of chances with possession. But I think we have to take it to them, because the way we are playing this season, we create so many chances. And even against Fiorentina, before we scored the goal, the chances were there, the chances were coming. Like, so I think we have to take it to them, and there will always be the worry that, they will, hit us on the counter. Like, they were really efficient in opening up Roma yesterday. That is my biggest worry. But I think defensively, we have better defenders than Roma. And it will, Gotham, come down to the fact that Ericsson will, if he does start against Juventus, he will have to show better defensive awareness. Like, he will have to get stuck into tackles, no matter if it's an accurate one or if it's a foul which gives him a yellow. He has to do it. Sorry, not tomorrow, against Juventus on Tuesday, because this is a really difficult game. Like, because they are really growing in confidence with the way they play, with the they eliminate a lot of unwanted movement. Is basically that's the case. So yeah, Ericsson, if he does start, he needs to step up his game.
Yeah, and Manish, coming to you, like this season, we have always struggled to break down teams when they sit back. Like we don't have the creative genius to like get the creative pass which will lead to a goal. And now we have to attack Juventus, and Juventus will sit back. They don't need to go out and score. We need 2 goals difference. So Juventus might sit back, like Parmeshwar said, they'll sit back and hit us on the counter. But the problem now is what I feel, when we are struggling to break down defenses of mid-table teams. Now we have a top team with a better defense. How do we like address this situation wherein like if Juventus sit back and say like, okay, you guys attack us, we'll just hit you on the counter with pace. Like how do you negate that threat of Juventus? Like then Ericsson is crucial, right, in the starting lineup.
So yes, Gautam. So actually, I slightly differ from what Parmesh's view is about Ericsson. As far as I know, Conte and what I've seen Conte, I think Conte is going to play it safe. Conte is going to keep it much a balanced formation, because you're playing Juventus end of the day. Putting Ericsson, Perisic, and Hakimi becomes a bit of unbalance. So if we are using Hakimi in the right and Perisic on the left, I'm sure he's going to balance out the Gagliardini. Although I'm not a big fan of Gagliardini, but I'm just saying what Conte what I view Conte is going to use. So pretty much midfield, what I feel as per Conte is going to be uh, Barella on the right side of the midfield, center Brozovic, and left side will be Gagliardini. And he might use Perisic and Hakimi. So that is two offensive players already. So that is one thing. And saying that Juventus will sit back, seeing from what Roma we have seen, and Pirlo type formation, Pirlo's identity is not yet come into the team. Like he said, he's combining a bit of Allegri and combining a bit of Sarri. Till now, we don't know what is the exact intent of Juventus. But saying by it, from the looks of it, I think Juventus is going to sit back and play on the counter, saying that they have a one goal advantage. So what for us, Gotham should play in our favor is we need an early goal. Like I think with Juventus, the motivation doesn't get. This is one of the biggest games, and saying that we won the first game and second game we lost, I'm sure Conte is all out to revenge. The whole players are motivated enough to show. And this is type of match where you don't need extra motivation. It's like everyone is ready. It's like a war happening. So from the first minute, I expect Inter to be highly like soldiers going on attack. But saying that we cannot leave much gaps to Juventus. They are very pacey. Players like Cuadrado, who's most likely to start, he was rested the game against Roma. So Cuadrado is going to start. And also players like Kulcheski, who was rested, he's going to start. He was very quick with his movement off the ball and on the ball is really tricky. So it cannot be like all out attack and he leaves spaces. And that was a team against Juventus. That would be definitely no sign for me. So yes, we are going to put Gagliani slightly as a to balance the team. Brozovic and Barella the freedom to roam around. And I'm sure in the second half, Ericsson will definitely come on this match and plays a Brozovic. If Brozovic gets card or any of the midfielders get card, I'm sure Ericsson is going to come on. But saying that for us, Gotham, for us to have any chance is definitely have an early goal. And by the looks of it, against Juventus, I don't think we need that extra motivation. Everyone's charged up in Lukaku, Martinez. Martinez surprisingly scored against Juventus, so I'm sure he'll go out again to prove his worth. But saying that this is definitely an open game, it's not done and dusted. Saying that I don't expect also Juventus to sit back completely protect the lead. So we might see initially phase where Juventus is attacking us, but later on slowly we gain possession and we get it. But the ideal key is to score an early goal. That is where I think this game lies. If we score an early goal, then tie is almost open. But we need a plus two goal advantage. There's no point winning 1-0 or having a draw 1-1. So we must not get a goal and sit back. We must go for the second or third goal. We must keep going because this type of matches, it's not over till the 95th minute. And also there's a possibility where we can repeat the scoreline, a 2-1 victory for us, and then go an extra time and penalties. So yes, it's one of those cautious chess type games where both the coaches are at it, and it's master versus student part two this time because first I think Conti had the win, second the student Pirlo came back, and now it's the final decider where we must go for a third big win. But
Yeah, Parmeshwar, coming to you before we go to the predictions, like how much do you think the upcoming fixtures after Juventus will affect Conte's substitutions in this game?
Yeah, it's going to play a big role because I think this is a game where he'll rather make those let's say smarter substitutions. Not that he doesn't, but what I mean to say is that you won't see someone like most probably at least you won't see someone like Kolarov coming in wherein he usually does just to give Bastoni a rest because he knows there is a higher probability of Bastoni getting suspended for the Milan derby if he unfortunately picks up a yellow card. So he'd rather use a Bastoni where he can, and this is a semi-final. It's pretty much a do or die thing, and it's always and Conte. Everyone has been taking the Coppa Italia and the Serie A pretty seriously. It's not like we are there where we are going there to lose. We want to make it to the final. So I think he's. I know there is Lazio coming up in a few days after that, then immediately the Milan derby, but I think they're going to stick to their routine, substitutions depending if they need to make that necessary change depending on the match, they will. I don't think they will hesitate, considering that we have to play Lazio next, Milan after that, and yeah, it's going to be. I think it's just another day in the office and another game which is going to be taken seriously by Conte. I don't think there is any scope for taking this match lightly at all. Yeah.
Okay, so coming to the predictions now, Manish, first with you. What do you think the scoreline will be?
okay, so asking me, it's one of I think the biggest games for us this season. Barring from the Champions League out against Juventus, I think the special motivation. Everybody has a point to prove, from Marotta, from Conti, and all the players. What I personally feel, Lukaku has to step up. What I've seen against Juventus, he hasn't done that this season. If Lukaku steps up, it's definitely a win. If not, I'm expecting maybe a 2-1 win for us and goes to the extra time. But I'm not sure who wins it on penalties. But that's my call, Gautam. If Lukaku steps up, definitely going to win. If not, it's going for penalties. 2-1 win, but we're going for penalties. And fingers crossed. I don't know about that.
So you are putting everything on Lukaku and not Lautaro, who misses more chances than Lukaku.
No,
generally.
I think if we had to win convincingly, Lukaku has to step up. And
Yeah.
when we've seen those games like against Milan and stuff, whenever Lukaku has stepped up, we always have won comfortably. And against Juventus, he tried his best, but I don't think he has scored so far against Juventus. So I want him to score. I'm eager for him to prove his critics wrong. And people say that Lukaku is not a big game player.
Yeah.
And this doesn't get any bigger. For him scoring against Juventus, it's like Lukaku versus Ronaldo. That matchup should be there. Like we had previous time Lukaku versus Zlatan. Now it's Lukaku versus Ronaldo. And Ronaldo each time plays against us, he somehow scores. So I wish the same. Lukaku also steps up and scores against Juventus.
Parmeshwar, like, what are your predictions? What will be the scoreline according to you?
Yeah, I mean, see, Lukaku, he can do better in terms of scoring more goals against the bigger teams. Not that he doesn't score against the big teams, he does, but I feel he still plays an important role because in that first match in the league, it was him who ripped Chiellini apart, in my opinion. So he is going to play a crucial role one way or the other. I mean, he's important for the rest of the team. We all know that. But coming quickly into a predicted 11 for Juventus, Buffon is their pretty much Coppa Italia goalkeeper, so he's going to start. I am expecting Sandro to start again at left back. On paper, it's going to be 4-4-2 at least. And I think it'll be De Ligt and Chiellini because of Chiellini's performance yesterday. I don't think Demiral will start. And I think Danilo is going to be back at it. And I think Chiesa will get benched, as surprising as it sounds for Bernardeschi. And on the left, we'll have McKennie. And in the middle, you'll have, I think, Rabiot and Arthur again. And up front, I have a feeling he's going to go for Ronaldo and Kulusevski again, not for Morata, because Kulusevski, he knows that Kulusevski can really press Brozovic. And although Brozovic is a bit press resistant, if he's not on his day, he can get exploited. So yeah, just quickly jumping into the scoreline, I feel it's a tough one to call. I mean, I don't want to be overconfident, but I think it's going to be like a 2-1 win again. And I think, like same as Manish, that it goes to extra time, and then I have no idea what. It's too specific to predict from there, so I have no clue what happens from there. Yeah.
Okay, so well, I am guessing it might be a 3-1 win for us, but unfortunately, I have a sneaky feeling that it might be 3-2, which might put us out of the contention for the cup. But I am guessing we will score 3 goals, and somehow I have the feeling that 3 goals we will score. But it's up to the defense now. It will be our defense versus their defense. Whoever doesn't screw up will take the tie.
And also one thing is, as long as Juventus, the players known for diving. Cuadrado is especially a specialist in that. We don't give away some stupid penalties. But one good thing Vidal is not playing, because I'm sure Vidal will be sent off in this type of match. So as long as we don't end up with 10 men and give away penalties, I think we should go. It's good for the win. But will we qualify? No idea. But like you said, might be a 3-1 or a 3-2, and it might be slightly out also.
Yeah, I don't think we have made it to the semi after ever playing Juventus. So I think it's going to be tough. Hopefully, we can break that. I was reading that somewhere. And yeah, I'm worried about players like Chiesa and Cuadrado because they tend to go down a bit too easily, especially Chiesa if he does start. I'm not expecting him to, but yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, folks. So that was another episode of Solo Inter podcast. So do let us know in the comments, what do you think will be the score line? Like, how will the next season pan out? How will this season pan out? How will the next few matches pan out? What will contest tactics be, and will we beat Juventus? Thank you, and see you guys soon.